What's happening, everybody? All right. OTAs are in the book, and we just got a bump of 24 million to our salary cap. That puts us just a little over 34 million. That's the sixth most salary cap in the entire league, and we got to do something with it. I dropped a video. My last video kind of detailed out what we can do, right? We could either extend some players, we can bring on some free agents, which there are definitely some names out there that the Raiders should take a look at. And we could also trade some for somebody. And I detailed all that out. So if you haven't seen it, after this video, go check out my previous one and you'll kind of get my take on what I think the Raiders should do. But in order for us to even bring on a player, whether it be trade or it would be free agency, we got to cut somebody. We got to release a player. And there are some players kind of at the bottom of every position group that I think will get cut. There's 6 or 7 players that most likely will just get cut or even brought down to the practice squad. But I also think there's some veterans that they better produce. There's some veterans on this team that, based on some of the guys that are basically in that same position, there's some competition. And I'm going to be watching out for it. I'm going to detail out some of these guys, some of these veterans that I think could potentially be on the hot seat in order to get down to the 53-man roster. And so before we get into it, if you can, please like this video, subscribe, turn those notifications. At the very least, if you can't hit that like button, I would definitely appreciate it. And I'm doing my next giveaway at 4,000 subscribers. So if you want to be included in that, hit that subscribe button. But just like I did my previous videos, before we get into it, let's play a little bit of a game. Let's play start them, bench them, cut them. All right. Out of the 3 players that you see on the screen, who would you start? Who would you bench and who would you cut? Starting from left to right, we got Napoleon Kaufman, number 26. I mean, one of the more exciting players to wear this silver and black. I mean, I remember watching him, and I thought every single time he touched that football, I thought he could take it to the house. You know, he was just extremely athletic, could do everything that you needed a running back to do. Then in the middle, you got Greg Van Eaton. I'm telling you right now, Greg Van Eaton, it was, I believe his last year that he played was the year that I was born. So I never got to see him play live. But I've seen highlights of him. I've seen, videos of just him playing back when with the Raiders. And you can tell this guy emulated what a Raider was. And if you go back, you look at some of his stats, he played 8 seasons with the Raiders, 3 of which he ran for over 1,000 yards, 35 total touchdowns in those 8 seasons with the Raiders. And so an absolute stud while he was with the Raiders. And at the very right side of the screen, you got Tyrone Wheatley. And I'll tell you right now, Tyrone Wheatley was one of my favorite running backs. I do think he was one of the more underrated players to wear the silver and black. But you look at him and what he did. Obviously, he had John Ritchie, one of the meanest Raiders to play, blocking for him. You see both those guys in that backfield. And I'm telling you, that was one of the meanest backfields we've ever had. It was fun to watch. So let me know. Let me know in the comment section down below. Who would you start? Who would you bench? And who would you cut between these 3 players? All right. So let's kind of get back into it, right? What veterans do I think have a chance at being cut, have being released in order for us to get down to 53-man roster? And again, the way I look at it is there might be some, either that position is very deep or there might be some younger talent kind of on their heels trying to chip away and really find themselves in that role that they were brought into play. And so the first player that I'm going to start off with is Amir Abdullah. When we brought back Amir Abdullah this offseason, I was excited. He brings a lot to the table. He's that third down back that he's that veteran that knows what he's doing and can be that crutch in those third down type of possessions. And so I was excited to kind of see him back. But again, he's kind of getting up there in age. And who do we bring in late in this year's draft? Dylan Lobby. And Dylan Lobby is one of the players that is just impressing everybody in the OTAs. And he can do everything that Amir Abdullah can do. Obviously, Amir Abdullah has the veteran presence. And so that in itself gives him a lot of credit. But at the same time, when you have a young, talented player like that, that can not only help you in third down situations and probably be as athletic and as Amir Abdullah is in those third down type of situations, but Dylan Lobby also helps you in the kick return game. He can return punts. He can return kickoffs. He can do all of that. And because of the new kickoff rule, you might want to keep somebody that could be that dual threat, someone that can not only help you in that running back room and that third down, in those third down situations, but also can help you in that kickoff and kick return game, or in the kick return and punt return game. Because I'll tell you right now, that is going to be a huge part of the game and possibly a big, huge part of our success this season. And so, in addition to Dylan Lobby, you also have Alexander Madsen. We brought in Alexander Madsen that can catch the ball out of the backfield and is also a good blocking back on passing downs. And so he can also do a lot that what Amir Abdullah can as well. And so that's why, in my opinion, as much as I like the fact that we brought in Amir Abdullah. We also have a rookie that we need to see what he can do. And I think that based on what we've seen out of OTAs, there's a really good chance that he can fight for his position. But we also brought in Alexander Madsen that can do a lot of what Amir Abdullah can as well and can be that dual threat type of running back. And so that's why, in my opinion, I think that Amir Abdullah could be on the hot seat in order to get down to that 53-man roster. So I'll definitely be watching a preseason. I'll be definitely watching practices to see how is some of this running back room, how's it kind of tying itself together? Is Dylan Lobby continuing to impress coaches? Because if he is, Amir Abdullah might be on the hot seat. So, guys, in the comments down below, let me know, what do you think about Amir Abdullah? Do you think his seat is safe, or do you think Dylan Lobby has a chance of replacing him on this 53-man roster in that running back room? And so, next up, we're going to go ahead and look at Cody Whitehair. I think Cody Whitehair, he was initially brought in as a veteran presence. He played with Luke Getsy the last 2 seasons. He understands Luke Getsy's system. So I think he was brought in to help teach Luke Getsy's system to all the other linemen in that lineman room. But I'll tell you right now, I was very I questioned bringing him in because Cody Whitehair was not very good. Last year with the Bears, he was not very good. The Bears had a bad offensive line, and I think he was actually one of the worst ones. He was actually benched at the end of last season. And if you look at what happened in the draft, we brought in Jackson Powers Johnson, which a lot of people didn't think that's who our pick was going to be. They thought we were going to get a tackle, and even if we did get a guard, it might have been someone in later rounds. So picking up a dominant guard like that, I think, is huge. And then you got a guy, and we also got a guy like Delmar Glaze that, yes, we brought him in as a tackle. He played a lot of tackle, but a lot of people think that he's going to be bumped down to guard. And if he does get bumped down to guard, then there's a good chance that you have your guard that can sit behind possibly one of Jackson Powers Johnson or Dylan Parham. And then you got Jordan Meredith. Jordan Meredith, I think, has established himself as a solid backup. And he's a younger guy. Cody Whitehair maybe has 1 or 2 years left in the league. And so I think he's brought in. He's going to go ahead and help teach the system through OTAs, through the mini camp, and through possibly preseason. But again, I think he might find himself basically being cut to get to this 53-man roster because we have a lot of young talent sitting in this offensive lineman room. I mean, you got Andres Pete that we picked up that I don't think he's going to lose his spot, especially with some of the injuries that Colton Miller is going through right now. And you got Andrew Coker. I did a video on him that he was an undrafted free agent. I think he's going to find himself backing up one of our tackle spots, most likely the right side. And so with that, and you got Delmar Glaze, you got Jordan Meredith, I do think that, and even if, and I'm sorry I'm jumping around a little bit, but even if we need help at the center position, because a lot of people say, oh, well, Cody Whitehair can play center. Cody Whitehair was, even as much as he was bad at guard, he was even worse at center for the Chicago Bears. And we have so many guys that can transition and play center. If Andre James goes down, Jackson Powers Johnson can jump in. Dylan Parham can jump in. We have our interior guys that have played so many different positions, not only guard, but also center. We have pieces that can rotate in instantly at that center position. And so I'm not too concerned about who's going to play, or about Cody Whitehair playing center. I think we have a young core of players that can really step in if there were injuries to our starting front five. And so I think Cody Whitehair can find himself on the chopping block to get down to the 53-man roster. So again, guys, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think about Cody Whitehair? Do you think there's a really good chance that he might be cut to get down to that 53-man roster? And so those are two guys that I think definitely have a chance. Now, this one might surprise you guys. This next guy might surprise you. And I'm going to kind of detail out why I think he might find himself um, not making the 53-man roster. And that's Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant, we signed him prior to the draft. Okay. We signed him prior to the draft because what we had was Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer was coming in as that number one tight end. And when the draft hit, who did we pick up? We picked up Brock Bowers, right? And so we picked up Brock Bowers, and now Harrison Bryant is finding himself as the third tight end. And this is where I think we might find a little bit of a battle, but if the battle doesn't work out the way Harrison Bryant wants it to work out, I think he might find himself wanting to go to another team. He's still a young tight end. He won the John Mackey Award back when he played at Florida Atlantic, all right, as the best tight end in college football. He served his I believe it was 3 years over with the Cleveland Browns. And so he might still want to find himself in a situation where he can fight and show that he could be a number one tight end. So he might find himself asking to be released. He might say, hey, I want to find somewhere that I have a true shot to be that number one, because obviously he's not going to get it behind Brock Bowers. He's our number one draft pick. So Brock Bowers is going to get every single opportunity to showcase his talent and what he can contribute. And same with Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is going to get every single opportunity. And if you look at who's behind Bryant, right, we still got guys like Zach Gentry that could be a big blocking tight end coming as that third tight end. He could show flashes in the passing game. But then we got Cole Fotheringham. And Cole Fotheringham, to me, I think is kind of a sleeper in this tight end room. There's been a lot of people that have talked so highly about Cole Fotheringham that I think that he could be that number 3, possibly number 4, because I think we do keep 4 tight ends. But he could be that number 3, number 4 tight end sitting in that room. But again, I think Harrison Bryant might want to find himself an opportunity on a team that he can fight to be that number 1. In addition to Harrison Bryant, even if he was okay with being that number 3, all right, let's just say he's okay with being that number 3. How much work is Harrison Bryant going to really get? How much is he going to actually, how many opportunities is he going to get throughout the season to really showcase his skills to potentially move on to another team? Because we've only signed him to a 1-year contract. We signed him to a 1-year contract. And this is his way of being able to prove that he can be a valuable tight end to a team. And he came onto this team thinking he was going to be the number 2 under Luke Getsy, where Luke Getsy likes to run 2 tight end systems, right? So a lot of his tight ends are going to get work. But now he's the number 3. And between all the weapons, and now you guys have seen his face. So let me cut back to the big screen. But now that you have Brock Bowers, you have Michael Mayer, which can be the number 1, number 2 tight ends. They're going to get basically all the tight end work. You got Devonta Adams, you got Jacoby Myers, you got Trey Tucker, right? You got the running backs that are going to catch passes out of the backfield, and you have an offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, that's going to run a pretty balanced offense. If you look back at what he ran last year, he basically ran 50-50 run pass. And then even if it's Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, these guys aren't going to be throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. You might only average 35 passes, maybe 40 passes a game. And if you do, these guys, hopefully these guys' completion rating, whether it be Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, their completion rating is in the high 60s. And if it is, you're completing 20, 25 passes a game. And if you're completing 25 passes a game, then that means that our tight ends, Harrison Bryant, I'd be surprised if he had maybe 12 to 15 catches this entire year. And is that what is that what Bryant really wants out of this team? Again, we signed him to a 1 year. He's got 1 year to prove that he could go on to another team and be a high caliber tight end. Because again, coming out of college, he was the number 1 college tight end coming out of that draft class. And so he might want to find himself somewhere else. And so that's why not necessarily that he is not good enough to be a decent tight end, but I think that there's a good chance that Bryant might want to find himself somewhere else. Because again, he was brought onto this team thinking he was going to be that number 2, possibly fight for that number 1 position. That was prior to the draft, and then we bring on Brock Bowers. So he has found himself in a situation where now he's the number 3, and he may not get the opportunities that he was expecting when he initially signed with us. So he might ask to be released so he can find another opportunity elsewhere, to a team that needs a tight end, that needs a number 1 or maybe even a number 2 tight end to really give him that opportunity. So, guys, those are the 3 guys. To kind of recap, Amir Abdullah, I think, could be on the hot seat based on how Dylan Labe continues to produce. I think Cody Whitehair. I think out of the 3, Cody Whitehair, without a question, is probably the I would bet money that he doesn't make this 53-man roster. And then you got Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant, I think he just got thrown into, after the draft, he got thrown into a pretty rough situation where I don't think that he's just going to get the opportunities that he originally thought he was going to receive coming to the Raiders. So, guys, again, let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are. Those are my 3 guys. Let me know if there's anybody else, any of the veterans you think have a chance at not making this 53-man roster. And so I appreciate you sticking with me. Again, like this video, subscribe, turn those notifications. Next giveaway, 4,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button if you want to be included. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out.